A warm welcome to you all once again. Today we are going to learn about the lesson number 2, The Living World of grade 6, subject Science, and this is part 2. Let us recall the previous session. We have learned about the introduction of the lesson and characteristics of living things. In this, we have learned about growth, photosynthesis, respiration, and excretion. So now here in this part, we are going to study about remaining characteristics such as responsiveness to stimuli and movement, reproduction, a definite lifespan, and a cellular structure, work of institutes, useful living things, harmful living things, and wild animals. So today's first characteristic which we are going to study is responsiveness to stimuli and movement. Have you experienced this? What happened immediately after the following actions? First one, light flashed suddenly into your eyes. Your eyes closed automatically. Second, suddenly you felt a pinprick. You take away your hand. Third one, the leaves of the mimosa plant were touched. Here in this picture you can see a mimosa plant. Yes, it is also called as shame plant or touch me not plant. This plant leaves fold inward and droop when touched or shaken, defending themselves from harm, and reopen a few minutes later. And the last action is at sunset, lamps on the street or courtyard are lit, and insects gather around the lamps because these insects get the direction in the light only. So, living things act in various ways when responding to a stimulus. If you suddenly enter a cow shed, the cows and buffaloes stand up, begin to move. One or two may even start moving also. These are all movements. A creeper planted in the courtyard leans toward a support. A potted plant placed in a window grows towards sunlight. It means that plants too show movement. Living things move of their own accord. The movement or the change taking place in a living thing at such a time is their response to a stimulus. An event that occurs in our surroundings is a stimulus. The ability of living things to respond to a stimulus is called their responsiveness to stimuli. So, therefore, responsiveness to stimuli is a characteristic of living things. Some more examples. Touching hot pan, this is a stimulus, and withdrawing hand from the pan, it is a response. One more example, bad smell of garbage bin, this is a stimulus, and covering the nose automatically, that is your response. So simply remember, a action is stimulus and a reaction is response for the action. So our next characteristic is reproduction. Living things produce other living things like themselves. The process by which a living thing generates a new living thing like itself is called reproduction or procreation. Some examples. Some animals lay eggs. Their young ones hatch out of the eggs. Examples, birds. Some plants produce from the leaf. Example, bryophyllum plant. Some animals give birth to their young ones. Example, a mare and her foal. And lastly, some plants are produced from the stems. Example, rose plant. So, reproduction is a characteristic of living things. So, now our next characteristic is a definite lifespan. At a certain stage of life, living things become capable of reproduction. Later on in life, reproduction stage, their organs become weak and still later, their life comes to an end. In other words, every living thing has a fixed lifespan. Life comes to an end with death when organs become weak. Every plant and animals has different lifespan. Examples: dog. Dog has 12 to 18 years of lifespan. Ostrich 50 years. Giant turtle on the Galapagos Island, it has 170 years of lifespan. And mayfly, it has 1 hour to 24 hours of lifespan. So our next characteristic is a cellular structure. Observe the image of honeycomb. Here you can notice the small compartments are there. These compartments are joined together to form a honeycomb. Similarly, observe this picture of wall. A wall has bricks. To construct a wall, we firmly join the bricks together. From these, we can understood that every living and non-living things are made up of small units. But here, in the case of living things, these small units are called as cells. So living things are made up of small units called cells. All the actions and processes in the bodies of living things are brought about with the help of small cells. The cells are of two types: unicellular organisms and multicellular organisms. The living things made up of single cell are called as unicellular organisms. Examples: Paramecium, amoeba, bacteria and yeast. The living things made up of many cells are called as multicellular organisms. Examples: all insects, all aquatic animals, trees, flowers and human beings. All the characteristics of living things are seen in every cell of a living thing, whether it is unicellular or multicellular. That is, cellular structure is the main characteristic of living things, even though the number of cells may vary.